Hey, welcome back to Travels with Carl, man. It's episode 18. And you know what that means. We are off into the U.S. Army, baby. I have so much stuff to sort out from episode 17. That thing just knocked the wind out of me. I'll give you an example. You know, it's accuracy on this is important to me. I'm not so sure why, but you know, like everything else in my life has been so accurate. But you know, it is what it is, and maybe I'll get less concerned about that as time goes on. But you know, here's what I had to work with. This is how much money I made each year from 1974 up until last year. Okay, which doesn't, for the purposes of this YouTube channel, it doesn't help me at all. I don't need to know how much I made. I need to know where I made it. But ironically, and I talked about this last episode, that because my mind was so messed up when I first moved to Maui, the first time I moved there, I was only there 8 months. So I went to the Social Security office yesterday without an appointment. And when I got there, they said it's going to be a 2 to 3 hour wait. I said, yeah, well, all right, whatever. I mean, if I got to wait, I got to wait, because it was 2 hours of hold time on the telephone. So I figured it can't be worse. At least here I don't have a cell phone stuck into my ear. And I'll be, you know, around some other interesting people perhaps, and maybe I'll get to the bottom of this, and maybe I can just force them or plead with them long enough that they decide to give me the form, because I have seen it in writing. I have the form somewhere that the Social Security office mailed me, and it doesn't just have how much you made every year. It shows you every place that you filed a W-2 form or had a 1099 form for. I can't find that, okay, because I had a fire once, and haven't gotten to that yet, but I lost everything. Literally lost everything I owned, except for what I had moved to another place, and I won't even go there because I could be giving away a future episode. But here's what you need to do, okay? I got to talk to the HMFIC there, which stands for Head Motherfucker in Charge. They said, what I need to do is complete the SSA-7050-F4 form, which this actually discontinues any prior editions of this form, in case you were concerned about that. It's from the Social Security Administration. And what this does, after you fill this form out and you send them $70, they will give you all of your earnings information. And this is what's called a itemized statement of earnings. It's for $61. If you want that certified, you can add another $35 to that. But this itemized statements of earnings, it includes the names and addresses of the employers. And if you check this box, tell us why you need this information below. I already told them I'm writing a book, and I have a YouTube channel, and they just kind of rolled their eyes in disgust and told me that not to come back without an appointment. And I'm like, oh, thank you so much for being so helpful. And I left. But turns out that even after I give them $60, they advised me that it's going to take 4 months, approximately 120 days, to get the information back. So what I did, and I, through a deductive reasoning, I realized, okay, hey, I was only on Maui for 8 months. I didn't have a car. So these 2 other jobs that I think come later, I'm going to go out and say that job 17 was at a grocery store in Kahului, okay? Now, Could I correct this later? Yes, I can. And if I find out once I get these forms back, or if I find the form, which could be at my house, not sure. I still have a couple of boxes of paperwork that I haven't gone through yet. But if I find it, please trust me, this will all be updated. But I know for sure when I left Maui in December of 1986, I was headed to Fort Jackson, South Carolina. And if you knew me earlier in my life, you would say, there's no fucking way that this guy enlisted in the Army. In fact, when I was in college, I was seriously considering making a video game, which really video games had just started. I mean, we had like Pong and stuff like that, called Draft Evaders. And instead of Space Invaders, it was Draft Evaders. And one of my faculty members, who was very much a pacifist and very left-wing, a guy that I love, this guy, I mean, he's great. But I said, Don, I don't have the money for this game anyway. I'm not sure I don't know how to write code or any of that. I really didn't like computers much. Computers had just, started to happen. We didn't even have the internet yet still. But this guy was so sharp. He told me about the World Wide Web before it existed. And I was like, Don, why would you want to have all these computers connected? And he said, because it makes everything accessible. And of course, and at the time, that made no sense to me at all. And he was sharp enough that he was on the cutting edge. He had a degree in molecular biology and another degree in mathematics. And I would say he's probably the smartest person I've ever known in my life, IQ-wise. Anyway, love Don. If you're out there, my brother, shout out. Anyway, I was pretty much against the military, even though my father served during the Second World War in the Navy. But here I am. I'm on Maui. I've tried drinking heavily for a year, still working and holding down reputable jobs, which you'll see throughout the course of this up until I got sober, which, drum roll please, doesn't happen for quite a few more years. In fact, in the military, you're encouraged to drink heavily. You're not allowed to do any drugs. Drug test you every month, of course, randomly. But anyway, here I am. I'm on Maui. Things aren't really working out. I'm like, I'm never going to be able to have. I'm 29 years old. I'm never going to be able to have like a grown-up job. I don't want to be like rounding up grocery carts from a grocery store. That's not going to get me a house or anything else in life that I want. And of course, as I talked about earlier, and we'll continue to talk about, and the gist behind this whole program is how hard it is to make it as an artist. But anyway, if you're mentally challenged, as I was, it's even harder, okay? So how do you like this set, man? This is the couch that came with Carl. It's actually original equipment. And I know that just because, I know the history of Carl. But man, it's hard to believe that something like this could still be, working 34 years later. And still nice fabric, comfortable, clean. Anyway, I'm getting off track. There I am in Maui, between Kahului and Wailuku, and not really finding a good job, not really seeing myself having a career ever in my life. And I kept walking by this enlistment station for the military, and I go in, and one day I went in and I started talking to this guy about what kind of benefits could I get from serving and how little time could I serve. Now, we were in peacetime, December of 86. There was nothing going on. There was no global conflict, which I thought I could get sucked into. And, the more I thought about it, I thought if I go in just to get out, if I go in and do 2 years of active duty, at the time they offered an 8-year contract where you do 2 years of active duty you get out, you get your honorable discharge, and then you can decide whether or not you want to do any Army Reserves, active duty reserves, National Guard, or you could do 6 years on your remaining contract of what's called IRR, which is inactive ready reserves. Now, the caveat to that is if they declare war, you could get pulled back in because you're still under contract. If they declare a war, you're going to get reactivated, okay? So after much thinking and much drinking, I decided, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm gonna go in there. I'm gonna get sober for a couple years probably, which no way, that didn't happen. I got sober for 4 months, or 2 months in basic training, but I did get in good shape, and I did. It did work out well. All right, I'll talk a little bit about what happened while I was in there, because there's 3 really distinct chapters to this that are worthy of discussion, I guess. And I guess before I even get to this, I'll have to say, when I took all the tests, the batteries of tests, the entry exams, I was qualified for any MOS, which is MOS stands for, what does it stand for? Basically it's your job in the military occupational service or something like that. It basically, it says, okay, he's going to be a helicopter mechanic or whatever. So that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to become a helicopter mechanic. So I lied about having a DUI, of course, because I'm not going to tell them I have a DUI because they're interrogating me about all this stuff. And I'm like, they're not going to find out I had a DUI, 4 years ago. Of course they would, but, or whatever, whenever it was. But so they said, yeah, you're qualified for any MOS the military offers, and what do you want to do? I said, helicopter mechanic. They came back a few hours later, while we're all sitting around. There's just hundreds of people at this MEPS station, which is a military entry processing facility or something like that, and this is in Honolulu, and I'm kind of waiting for them, and the guy comes back and he's shaking his head. He goes, why didn't you tell me you had a DUI? And he goes, this changes everything. He goes, I'm not even sure you're going to be able to enlist. And at that time, Ronald Reagan I think it was Reagan, had just made this big thing about if you have any kind of drug or alcohol issue, you're not touching any military aircraft. And so that fucking sank me on that one. So I'm like, well, it comes back later. He goes, all right, we're going to be able to get you in on a waiver. But you only have like 3 or 4 MOSs that you qualify for now, and one of them is a cook. I'm like, that's out. And one of them is a supply clerk. And I'm like, what is that? And he goes, that's like, radar on MASH. You order stuff for your unit. He goes, every unit has a supply clerk. Doesn't matter whether it's a tanker unit or whatever. Every unit has a supply clerk, probably a supply sergeant and a supply clerk, which is somebody like me, a Spec 4, which is Spec 4 is the same pay grade as a corporal, but a corporal is considered a non-commissioned officer. A Spec 4 is not a non-commissioned officer. I don't really need to go into the difference between those two things, I don't think, for this episode anyway. I may do it later, but... So I sign up for that. Okay. All I know is that I'm going to be ordering stuff. I'm going to have a desk job somewhere in the military, in some unit, anywhere in the world. Okay. Well, I have to go back on... I have to rotate this back a degree, because when I signed up, they said if you do 3 years active duty, you can stay here, or you can pick your base that you want to go to. If you do 2 years active duty, we're going to spin the globe. You could end up anywhere in the world that we have a United States Army base. I said, oh, Spin the globe, man. Are you kidding me? Spin the fucking globe. I'm doing 2 years and I'm out. And they're laughing, because they don't care. They're going to get credit for signing me up no matter what I do. Once I sign that contract, they already, they made their quota, right? I don't know how many people they have to sign up a month or whatever, but so there we go. I'm in. I'm done. I go back to my friend's house where I'm living, which is another reason why I knew that it wasn't those two places on the other side of the island, because I didn't even have a car. Just had my bicycle, remember? I think I went over all that. Anyway, brought my cat and my bicycle. My cat ended up staying on Maui with my friends. And my bicycle, I think I sold that. I can't remember if it went into storage or if I think I sold it. But here I am, flying to Fort Jackson, South Carolina, okay? Now, at the time, my hair was down to my shoulders. I remember I was wearing a blue flannel shirt when I went in and jeans. And I was still smoking, even though I'd been running on Maui, preparing myself for basic training because I knew it was going to be physically challenging, to say the least. But I was still smoking, and I get off the bus. We all get off the bus, like a ragtag bunch of misfits. All civilian clothes still, right? No uniforms or anything. And the drill sergeant, when I stepped off the bus, he looked at me, he looks me up and down, and he goes, he sees a pack of cigarettes in my pocket. He goes, "Do you smoke?" I go, "Yeah." And he reaches into my pocket like a ninja, takes my cigarettes out, throws them on the ground. And I can remember, I can still see his shoe, his highly polished military boot, just grinding my pack of Marlboro Lights into the ground. Like, he goes, "Guess what? You just quit. Now get the fuck over there." And he points over to where a bunch of other ragtag misfits are standing. So from there, they load us onto a cattle car, and we go back to a barracks. And now everybody is just like, in just like a state of shock that we're now, wherever we were before, whatever city we were in, New York or Hawaii or wherever the fuck we're now all together in this barracks in Fort Jackson, South Carolina, with a bunch of hillbilly motherfuckers. So, yeah, it was a bitch. And so basic training was incredible. I can't even begin to tell you. In fact, it was perhaps two of the most amazing months of my life. Really fucking amazing. I found that I was capable of doing things that I had no idea I would be able to do. I was one of the fastest people in my unit, even though I was 29. I was outrunning these country bumpkins that were all fat and over, couch potatoes, overweight, video game playing motherfuckers. And so I was turning 11 minutes and change on 2 mile run. So I never broke 11 minutes. I never got down to the 5 minute mark, but I was under 6 minutes a mile. So to put that into perspective, the Kenyans, when they do a 2 hour marathon, they're running 26 5-minute miles back to back. Even in my prime running time, I never got down to that kind of time. Those motherfuckers are impressive. Anyway, I was outrunning a lot of the people that were in my unit, even though I was 29. 30 was the cutoff level in the limit. So I was 10 years under the mark for not even being eligible to be in the military. So I did basic training 2 months, boom. I did my AIT, which is your Army something training, Army individualized training or something like that. So it turns out not only was I a supply clerk, I also had to be the unit armorer. So I was in charge of all of the weapons that my unit had, and I had to maintain them on top of that. I did own a gun, but I'd never taken one apart, and I never owned of course, a machine gun, But anyway, so I learned all that, all the weapons that I was going to be responsible for, how to maintain them, how to take them apart. You know, like in Forrest Gump. Gump, how'd you take that weapon apart so fast? Because you taught me how to, drill sergeant. You know, we had to be able to put an M16 together blindfolded in under 2 minutes after it was stripped down. So anyway, got through there, graduated, boom, sent. I don't know where I'm going to go, but there's like 50 of us. And they had our name on a whiteboard, right? And next to all my friends, it said so-and-so, Panama, so-and-so, Panama, so-and-so, Korea, so-and-so, Panama. Because Noriega was flaring up at this time. Panama was a hot spot. It wasn't a war or anything yet, but it was getting there. And then, of course, Korea was still always sending people to Korea. So I get to my name and a friend of mine's name. We were like two of the top people from the class. And next to our name, it just says 2 words, special assignment. And I look at my friend and I go, you know what? That can't be good. And the drill sergeant goes, you guys are going to have to get a special clearance. So this might take a day or two. So just head on back to the barracks. You'll just be living there for a couple more days. I'm like, oh, fuck. Because I just wanted a plane ticket. I just wanted to get away from Fort Jackson. Anyway, sure enough, I got to get a secret clearance because I'm going to go to 219. I'm going to go to Fort Monmouth, New Jersey, which is now not even in existence. It used to be called Camp Little Silver, but it was one of those country clubs, military bases that was like a country club, and all the generals that were going to retire went there for the retirement. So my brigade did so many parades, they called us the Parade Brigade. And so anyway, there I am. I got a desk job for 1 year and 8 months. And, I think I'm going to end it right there because I took care of all their weapons. I ordered all their supplies and kept track of them and everything. And boom, there you go. Every once in a while, they would load everything we had in trucks, start timing us. We would drive down to McGuire Air Force Base, load everything that our unit had onto a C-141 or a Skylifter onto a jet, and they would time us, and then we would take it all off and go back to the base. We never knew if we were going to actually leave and close that plane up and take off, or if we were going to go back to the base. We did that, half a dozen times, and each time I thought, this is it, man. We're probably going to fucking go, and we never deployed. And the reason I have this uniform instead of this is called a BDU or a battle dress uniform. The reason I have desert camouflage, I only wore that on special occasions. Every other day I came dressed for work in woodland camouflage BDUs because they didn't even want people to know what our mission was, and our mission was to go to Bandar Abbas, and eventually we were supposed to protect the oil reserves should the Soviet Union try to take all the oil from Saudi Arabia. So it was pretty crazy, that and then we would go to meetings about it. It was I only had a secret clearance, but most of my other friends and my other coworkers had top secret or TSSBI clearances. But we never deployed until I got out. And I'll talk about that next episode, okay? Because I've only got 6 minutes left. And there's a couple things I wanted to talk about that are going on now. Because, I'm thinking about doing a version of I Shot the Sheriff. Only, I shot Pete Hegseth, but I did not shoot at DJT. Oh, yeah. I shot Pete Hegseth. So you know what's going on in Venezuela, and now they're although also let me say shout out to the Daily Beast. Okay, I'm sponsoring them, and if you look on their at the end of each episode, it says "Travels with Carl." You know, I love it. Hardly costs me anything, and they have 500,000 subscribers, or almost five. They have 497,000 subscribers. I figure that was money well spent. I'm hoping and trying to get them to do a shout out for me, but they say my name. They actually either Joanna Coles or what's his name? I knew I was going to forget his name. Who wrote 4 books about Trump? He's going to kill me if I forget his name. Wolf, Michael Wolf. Sorry, Michael. Joanna's much better looking. Anyway. Oh, she would slap my face for saying that. Anyway, yeah, that's shout out to the Daily Beast, Beast, as Melania would say, and Kristen Wilson, Traveling with Kristen, and Farmer for Fun, Joseph Marsh and Andre. Those are my 3 main YouTube channels that I'm hoping will help me blow this one up. But you know, this controversy over whether you can just smoke a ship that's sailing across the Caribbean because you think that it has a bunch of cocaine on it, and you want to say that they're at war with us. Well, they're not at war. You don't even know that that's cocaine, although it is, but you don't know that. And so it's a war crime just to blow them up. But if you get a couple survivors and then you make another pass or 3 or 4 passes and you keep firing at them to make sure you killed them, okay, it's right there in black and white in the Geneva Convention. Those people are out of combat. They were never really in combat, but even if they were, you can't shoot people that are clinging to a piece of wreckage and treading water in the ocean. Okay, that's a war crime. And Pete Hegseth is trying to duck it, saying, no, I don't know that they actually, I didn't see that part. I left early because, you know, Secretary of War, we're busy, right? And he's looking at Trump and he's looking back. Yeah, well, you did know, and you did authorize them to go back and kill those 2 civilians clinging to a piece of wreckage for their life instead of rescuing them. That's a war crime. So just so you know how I feel about this, I'm a military guy. I'm a veteran. Well, I'm not really a military guy, but I am a veteran. Not ashamed of it. Not all that proud of it. It's just, it is what it is. It was a job, okay? And yeah, I rolled the dice. I got lucky. I had a desk job. I was never in combat. And I tell people going to college in Oakland was more dangerous than being active duty in the military in my case. Never had anybody point a gun at me while I was in the service. I can't say that about Oakland. Anyway, we're getting near the end here, and I just wanted to do a shout out to Michael Wolf and Joanna Coles, because they're on it, right? He's suing Melania Trump, going to have subpoena power over her, and trying to find out what her relationship is with Epstein, and they're going to have power to subpoena anybody they want to. It's really clever legal maneuvering. But anyway, I just wanted to let you know that I'm working on clarification on the jobs. Okay, I'm working with the Social Security Administration office to get the accurate file, and I'm going to have that when this is all done. I'm either going to find the one at my house, or I'm going to wait out the 4. You know, I'm not going to wait on them, but I'm going to put in the 4 months and get that document. Amendment 21-A, please go to Amazon, buy a copy. Okay, it's my book. It's about ending the war on drugs. It's right there in the book section. Amendment 21-A, okay? And you know what my website is, www.what? Van Gogh, VanGogh, GOGH dot what? Dot Inc. INK. That's right, not INC like Van Gogh Incorporated. No, it's a play on words. It's Van Gogh dot Inc. like a printmaker. Fucking clever, right? All right. I always looked at the last episode before I shoot the next one. That helps me a lot to make sure that I'm keeping you up to speed and I didn't leave you at an uncomfortable point when I went on to the next episode. So 17 was a train wreck. I made a few notes today. 17 was a train wreck, and I let you know about that. I've got the SSA pamphlet 70-50, and I'll be filling that thing out, making a copy of that SSA-7050-F4. Okay, and just be beast. That's all I can tell you is be beast. And look for the Pete Hegseth song. I'm going to try to record that, and I may slip that in as a short. I'm not sure exactly, how that's going to play out. But are you familiar with the Marsh family? I'll probably have to include them too. Not Joseph Marsh, not the same Marsh family, but the ones that do the cover songs and they change the words. Really clever, really cool family. Husband and wife and maybe four, maybe 5 kids, and they're all playing different instruments and singing different parts. I can love that. All right, we're at 31 minutes and 38 seconds. Love you all. Stay cool, be healthy, be happy, and let's ride.
Some will the bold colors come alive on canvas. He paints